Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm going to start tonight just by asking for permission. First of all, let's turn our cameras on if you can, just because I'm super reactive. You guys know me. I feed off of energy like crazy. I don't care if your phone is glitching and you're freezing for like 20 minutes. If I can see your pretty face, I'm happy. Okay. So anyways, I want to start it off. Just saying, this was a Zoom call that was requested. This is something that I have talked to so many people on our team about. Some people reciprocate it, some people do not. And either way, I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I love these Zoom calls because it helps us grow. So I'm going to talk a lot of growth for you guys tonight. I'm going to pour into you, not just about business, but about life in general, because I feel like sometimes we really need that reset. And I want to ask for your permission to be super real and super honest. And in order for that to be a thing, okay, I want you guys to blow the chat up. Say, I'm ready. I'm excited. Say, you're good to go. Let's do this. Whatever you want to put in the chat, just to give me a heads up that it's okay to be super real, because I'm going to give you some real raw truth and some real raw stuff tonight. And I've got it all prepared for you. And if it's not for you, you might want to hop off right now, because it's going to be crazy regardless. Okay. So I say everything with love, and I say everything and keeping in mind that I needed to hear these things when I first got started so bad. And I still need to hear it every single day. As a matter of fact, I'm recording this right now just so that I can re-listen to this so I can hear myself in the future. Okay. So tonight, I want to make sure that we are being open. We're being honest, not just me being real with you, but you being real with me as well, because that is how we build a huge, successful, and tight-knit team. That's more like family than just a team, right? And that's what we want in our future. We want that team that can get together and feel like we're just sisters, feel like we're closer than some of our family is to us, So tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about self-awareness and ego, which is so huge. And I'm going to read off these notes, and I'm going to try to do my best because I've got a lot of crap that I need to share with you guys. I just pretty much spilled it out on my piece of paper, and I'm ready to go. So one of the biggest things that play a role in our business and in our life is ego. And it's really crazy because I just want to get a show of hands, okay? Or a show of like what you guys think that that's all about. Anytime you've ever heard of ego, what do you think? Put it in the chat. I want to know what you guys think when you hear the word ego, or someone who has an out of control ego. What do you think? What are some of the characteristics? What are some of the things that come to mind for someone who has an out of control ego or a huge ego? We can put it on the regular chat. We can put it in this chat. I'm gonna look. And there is no wrong answer. Like nobody's gonna make fun of you for thinking anything. Nobody's gonna say, no, you're wrong. You are the weakest link, goodbye. Nobody's going to say that to you. Okay. I just want to know, because when I think of ego, I used to think of something specific. And now I started realizing that it's so, so different. It's so, so different. Maybe my chat's just delayed. Here, we'll click into this. Selfish, enabling, manipulator, rebellious. These are all good. Okay. That's the only one that I've gotten so far. So here's the thing, is that when we think of ego, we all think of someone who is self-centered, right? Raise your hand if you think of someone who's self-centered, someone who is all about themselves, within themselves, things like that. Okay. That's literally what I thought too. But I started learning about 4 years ago I started really like learning this and understanding this, that ego is actually the complete opposite. So ego is actually, it has a lot to do with fear and doubt and a misunderstanding of yourself, pretty much. And so the people who you're seeing that are confident, those people who are, self-centered and worrying about themselves and things like that, it's actually the complete opposite people that have an out of control ego. The people who are, I'm going to mute everybody. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Okay, perfect. All right, so I want to teach you a little bit about this tonight, and I want to teach you how to identify this in not only other people, but within ourselves. Because a lot of the times we don't even realize that we have an out of control ego and how much it can affect not only our life, but our business as well. And I'm going to show you guys some key signs to identify this. And the thing is that starting this Zoom call, I wanted to be really, really open and honest. And I want to get a show of hands. How many of you guys believe that everything that's happening in your life right now is a result of what you are tolerating and what you are believing that you deserve and believing that you are worthy of? Just a show of hands. Okay. Because when I first started this business, I had a very poor victim mindset. And that's why I say things like that. And a lot of you, I think, have outgrown that mindset already, even if you're just brand new. And when I first started, it took me a really long time to get away from that, because I had been conditioned my entire life to believe that everything that was happening around me was not my fault. And that no matter what, at the end of the day, I could just run away from it. And in reality, the only way to get away from it is to start understanding all about ego and knowing where my ego is flaring up and knowing where that fear and that doubt and everything. Someone who's actually out of control with their ego, like their ego is just so out of control, those are your most insecure and fearful people. Did you guys know that? It's so real and it's so true. And I'm going to explain it to you guys in a couple of minutes. Okay. So I want to invite you guys to stop allowing yourself to go through those things and stop allowing yourself to tolerate those things that are creating this lifestyle for you that you don't want, and start choosing better for yourself. Start understanding these things that I'm going to teach you tonight, and show yourself a better life, and show yourself and show your children what it looks like to make things happen for yourself. My notes are kind of all over the place, so I'm going to be a little bit all over the place. I'm sorry, guys. So as far as, sorry, I was just reading it because I'm like all over the place and I don't know why I even wrote certain things. I was like, just earlier today, I was like a freaking mess going through all of it. And I was like, holy crap, there's so much to write about this. So one of the things that I wrote on here was, the reason that we need to talk about this, we want to make sure that we're aware, because the only way to squash ego is to love yourself. And the only way to love yourself is to know yourself. And the only way to know yourself is to be yourself, right? To become the true version of yourself. That's the only way that you can truly love yourself. Otherwise, you're catfishing yourself every single day, right? So I want to go over 14 different ways that you know that your ego is flaring up, and you can help yourself not allow this to intrude on your life and on your business. And I'm just going to kind of rapid fire these off, and I'm going to go over different things that I noticed within myself and within my business. So if you want to take notes along the way to help yourself kind of debrief later on and be like, okay, this is why my business is not taking off, or this is why I'm fighting with my spouse, or this is why I'm struggling inside of my head, not believing in myself and all the things. These are all the things that really, really made me struggle when I first started working this business. Okay. So the number one way, that you can know that your business is crushing you and crushing your business and crushing your life, or, your ego is flaring up, is if you're defensive. You're super reactive to everything. And how I know a lot of the times when I'm talking with someone, not only myself, but when I'm talking with someone else that their ego is out of control is when you are talking to them about what they're doing every single day and they get super all over the place with it, and they get super emotional almost with it, and they try to defend themselves. Like, have you ever heard someone, especially on your team, or maybe you've done this before, okay? The second that someone tells you, well, this is what I did in my business today, you have to automatically come back and try to tell them all the things that you're doing, right? Or all the things that you're going to do, or all the things that you did do. That's a bottom line type of defensiveness that's going on. And this can actually affect your coachability too. I had a girl recently that got started with me, and she's no longer with me anymore. Her ego got the best of her. And it was because of this reason specifically, because everything that I tried to coach her on, it was almost a comeback. Like, well, I can't do this because of this. I can't do that because of that. Right. And it was like she was trying to rebuttal and trying to prove something to me that she didn't need to prove to me in the first place. That let me know that her ego was out of control, and it was burying her business from the day that it started. Okay. So just knowing this, and knowing that being defensive can stall and kill your growth in your business and in your life, because your business is 80% growth and 20% skill. If you're not open and willing to learn, right, and you're consistently trying to rebuttal and pull back and trying to be on the defense mode instead of offense mode, your coachability is going to go downhill. And what happens when you're not coachable and willing to learn? You can't be a leader, especially to yourself, if you're not willing to be a follower first. And that's where this part of ego comes in. Number two, you can tell whether someone has an out of control ego, or whether we've had an out of control ego, when you always need to be right or always need to win. Okay. Have you ever talked to someone before, and every single thing that they say, or every single time they come back in conversation with you, they feel like they need to one up you, or they need to be right, or they need to win, right? Yeah, Christina's laughing. I know I could name at least 5 people from my past that were like this. And this was actually stalling them in their life, because they were no longer willing to be a learner. Instead, they were not allowing themselves to get around people that made themselves uncomfortable. They were always just trying to be better than the people that were around them, and not really focusing on growing with the people around them. Okay. So when you are like this in your business, it really makes it hard for you to fail, right? Because you're consistently saying that you were right for doing this, and you were right for doing that, and you were right for doing this. The girl that I was just talking to you about, same exact thing happened. It was always I'm better than you. I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on, So it stalled her business, because our business is built on failures. And so if you're always trying to be right and you're always trying to win, you're not going to allow yourself to fail. And that's how you get to the next level, is by failing and using those failures to climb that mountain that you're looking at. I talked about this on my live earlier today, and I got really hyped up. So if you have not watched it, go check it out, because I was talking about how, every single time that you fail, you can almost build it like steps. And every single failure actually is not a setback. It's a set up. It helps you get forward. It helps you move forward. And when you always have that need to be right, and you always have that need to win and never fail, you set yourself up for failure automatically, because you're telling yourself that it's impossible for you to fail. That's your ego getting the best of you. And I want you to understand that and recognize that when that's happening in your life. Whenever you're afraid of failing, that's this right here. Whenever you're afraid and you're consistently just trying to be the best, be all, end all, be all, making it happen 24/7, and never having a down moment, never allowing yourself to have that moment, right? Never pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone so that you can fail, because you're so afraid of failing. You always have to win. You always have to be right. You're actually holding yourself back at the end of the day. And when it comes down to it, people need to trust your honesty and transparency, right? They cannot trust you if they don't know that you have failed, that you have had a hard time, that you have gone over hurdles and mountains and all the things. They don't know that they have to climb if you're not showing that you have to climb. So if you are consistently saying, I'm right, I'm up, my business is up, it's going forward, you're never showing the down times, you're never showing the down moments, you're never showing the times that you fall or anything like that, because you've got this ego going on that's pulling you away from that. You're going to make it so that nobody wants to follow you, because they need to see that transparency. They don't want to follow a perfect person. They don't want to follow a person that's always right. They want to follow people who are just like them, that make mistakes just like they do, right? So think about that when you're thinking about this step right here. Number 3, this doesn't so much, go with the business, but it can in some aspects. A prideful person, someone who is prideful literally all the time. Someone who is pushing so hard to be perfect 24/7. And the reason why this can actually affect your business and your life in general is because, once again, you're not relatable. People need to see that you're not a perfect person. People need to see that you are somebody that falls and gets back up, so that they can have the courage to fall and get back up. People need to see that you are a real person that needs to go look for the answer sometimes. And that's why, I don't know if you guys have ever gone through this before, but I've had someone who has signed with me almost every single year at the least, that whenever someone asks them a question and they don't have the answer, they almost feel bad about like waiting to give them the answer. They almost feel like they need to rush. And when they don't rush to go get them the answer, all they're doing is they're saying, let me go get the answer from my upline. Okay. Have you ever heard that before? I've had someone who said that literally. And what that is them thinking that they have to be perfect. And you don't have to be perfect. The best part is that people need to see that you need to go look for the answers yourself. Right? This was totally me. Yes, this was me too. This was me too. Always feeling like you needed to be perfect for whatever reason, right? And this will come up a little bit later on, closer to the 14, okay? So number 4, you seek revenge or wish failure on someone, okay? And I'm going to share this with you guys, and I'm going to be super, super personal with this, because I think it's really important to understand this. So when I first started my business, some of you know and some of you don't, I built my entire business to diamond. And within 2 months after I went diamond, my whole business crashed. And I had person after person after person after person after person fail or quit, not fail, but quit again and again and again and again and again. Okay. I at first, because I had an out of control ego, would watch their page, and I would watch their page and I would watch their page and see what they're doing. And I would almost hope that they would fail. Okay. This was an out of control ego, because I wanted to show them and prove to them that the grass is not greener on the other side. When in reality, I was not in control of that, right? I was not in control of that, and I never was. And so they had to learn that on themselves. Now, my ego back then was telling me that, no, they need to learn. They need to learn. I need to be able to see that, right? Now I get to this point where when people end up quitting, I don't follow their page anymore. I unfollow it. I don't waste my time wishing and hoping that that person would come back, because then I'm holding myself back from moving forward, because I'm focusing too much on that past. So instead, I unfollow that person. I'm still friends with most of them. I just don't follow them closely. I don't go look at all their posts and their pages. My daughter is blowing my freaking phone up. I don't follow all their stuff. I don't go and waste my time checking it out, comparing it to when they were with me, or comparing it to our relationship or anything like that. I just remove myself from the situation so that I don't have to waste my time going back and and wishing and hoping and waiting, right? And not only that, you know, when it comes down to it, whatever you put out there in the universe, it always comes back. Does anybody else believe in that? That's manifestation. And so if you're hoping and wishing and waiting for them to fail, it's going to come back tenfold, because that's what you're putting out there, that you want them to fail, and it's going to come back on you. So I always just bless people out. I wish them the best. Back then wasn't like that. This version of me that knows about ego and knows that if you have this out of control ego, you can't possibly move forward. And that ego actually comes from fear, doubt, all the things, right? So that's number 4. Number 5 is control. This is super big for people who have ever been through any type of trauma in their life, okay? Needing control in the situation. Anybody on here, just raise a hand, wish that their downline would just pick up and run? Or wish that they're, yeah, exactly. We're all guilty, okay? We're all guilty of it. I have been there before. I still have, you know, my ego flares up. And so that's why I wanted to be so real with you guys tonight. And I feel like this is something that we all need to learn tonight. Wishing that our downline would just pick up and run. Wishing that our upline was just there for us. Wishing that our sideline would just get it, right? Wishing that our friends would just understand, right? These are all things that we wish that we had control over. Especially, you know, when you're thinking about downline, and I know a few of you are leaders and you lead other people, when it comes down to it, you can relate to this. They're not moving fast enough for you, right? We've all been there. They're not moving fast enough for you. They have not grown past their excuses yet. That's a really big one, right? We focus on when it comes down to it, when we focus on that, and we focus on their lack of growth, and we focus on needing that control of our downline, we actually ruin the relationship long term. And relationship is what gains the influence. Influence makes people go. Do you see how that can destroy everything for you? If you want all of the control in your downline, your upline, your sideline, whatever, when it comes down to it, everything's going to come back at you. So that was a big one for me when I first started this business, because like I said, I had a whole team, and this has happened to me twice before. I built my business up to diamond. It all fell like a deck of cards. I built it back up again, and this control came in to the picture. My ego went out of control, but in a different way. And it all fell like a deck of cards because I started being bossy instead of influencing them, right? I started telling them what to do, not asking them if they wanted to do it with me, right? So this actually can help your leadership just by knowing that you have to give your people grace. Not just your downline, not just your upline, but the people that are in your life every single day. They're just not there yet. You've got to understand that everybody grows at a different pace. Everybody does things at a different pace. And they will get there eventually with your influence and showing up for them every single day, right? So number 6, talking poorly and gossiping about other people. Who's guilty of this? I've done this before in my life, 100%. Okay. When like 5 years ago, when I first started my business, this was my entire lifestyle. And you know where it comes from? We gossip about other people and we talk poorly about other people because we're trying to make ourselves look better, right? We are trying to pull other people down so that we can feel better about ourselves. And in some way, shape, or form, it doesn't matter whether you just want to know the inside scoop on someone else's life, right? It doesn't matter if you just want to know what's going on or we're being nosy. I mean, I have a lot of nosiness in me. So when it comes down to it, I am guilty of this, you know, and that is the out of control ego getting the best of me sometimes, right? And now, sometimes, like I said, we're trying to cover up our own insecurity. by talking about other people. And maybe it's not in a super negative light, like, oh, she's a POS or whatever, right? Sometimes it's just gossiping. Sometimes it's just talking about other people's lives. And all we're trying to do is get away from what's really going on deep down in our life, right? And in turn, it actually hurts us in the long run because we're not focusing on where we want to go. We're focusing too much on other people. And I think that we're all guilty of this at some way, shape, or form in our life. Every single one of us, right? So that's number 6. Number 7, bullying. Okay. This can be in your business and this cannot be in your business. Bullying in your business would be like, like talking down to your team because they're not doing something, right? Telling your team that they are pieces of crap because they don't want to show up. Instead of coming from a place of, when I first started, I did this to get here. You can do it too, right? Do you guys ever hear me put that in the chat? And I talk about where I was when I first started and how I so badly wanted it. And this is what I had to do to show up. So if you want to go up, you have to show up too. So lifting your team starts with, or lifting the people that are in your business in general, not just that, but your loyal customers as well. It starts with talking up to them, not down, or talking, like lifting them up and elevating them instead of talking down. You see what I'm saying? So a strong leader will always elevate. They will not talk down and they will not bulldoze. Okay. When I first started my business, I bulldozed over a lot of people. I had an out of control ego. This was all learned behavior, and it was all based on fear and doubt. I was extremely insecure when I first started my business, extremely insecure. I did not love myself because I did not know myself. Couldn't know myself because I was always trying to be someone else, trying to please other people, right? That's where we get that people pleasing mentality from. And that is an out of control ego. Sometimes we don't even realize that, right? But when you see it in that light, you're like, oh shoot, man, I got to make some changes. I got to change something. So number 8 is seeking others' approval or reward. Everyone is not my cup of tea, right? Raise your hand if you could think about one person in your life right now that you can't stand to be around. She's like, one. I agree, girl. I agree. Okay. So when it comes down to it, not everybody's our cup of tea. We don't want to be around everybody. So how can we be so naive to think that everybody else is going to want to be around us? Right? When we pull ourselves back and we start saying, not everybody's going to want to be around us. So why am I trying to be perfect to get approval from everybody else? My people are out there just like they're looking for me. Right? So, others will not always support you and believe in you in your business or your product. This is something that when I first started this business, I felt like I needed to prove myself to everybody. So when my sister looked at me and she said, when are you going to go get a real job anyways? It dug me deep because I was seeking other people's approval. I tell this to Braylon all the time. Not everybody is going to like you, and that's okay. Yes, I just told Bailey that today. Okay. I agree. And I think that's great that you tell her that because it's so ridiculously true. And we should never set our children up for failure because if we tell them everybody's going to like you, that's not true, right? That's setting their ego up to be out of control. They need to learn these things. And I was never taught those things. I don't know about you guys, but I was never told those things ever. Now we get to draw the line in the sand and we get to be that for our children and our grandchildren, and we get to teach them those things. So I love that you brought that up. When it comes down to it, my sister, she looked at me in the face and she said, when are you going to go get a real job anyways? And I had to look at myself and say, no, Chelsea, this is the way. And it's okay that she does not approve of you. It's okay that she does not approve of anything that you do. You're going to keep going because you need to live for yourself. You need to move forward for yourself. The only way that you're going to know yourself is if you become yourself. The only way to become yourself is to just be you and do the things that you love to do. So I started being myself. About a year into this business, I really, really started getting in the depth of who Chelsea Sear is. And I started becoming that version of her every single day. And that's where my ego started going away. And I still have times where like I'll get one of these 14 things that flare up, but I'm aware of it. It's not that they just go away and like poof, your ego just disappears. No, it still comes back and it's still always there, but you have to be self-aware to tell yourself, okay, calm down, right? Throw it out the window. That's not yours to keep. Bye-bye, right? So when it comes down to it, some people aren't going to believe in your product. Is it going to destroy your business? Does that mean that your products don't work? No. Some people aren't going to believe in MLM or network marketing. Does that mean that it doesn't work? No. Some people are going to be nasty and rude and tell you that you're a piece of crap just for working online. I get that all the time. Anybody gotten that recently? I get it all the time. Okay. When it comes down to it, does that mean that you're really a piece of crap? No, because they don't define you. At the end of the day, there's a block button for a reason. And that's how you can understand, that's how you can get rid of that ego, when those things happen. So number 9 is people that don't like to be alone. I had to read that because it's all jumbled together. Okay. So number 9, people that don't like to be alone. We all know someone in our life that has to be with someone 24/7. And when they're not, they're blowing our damn phones up. Okay. I know of at least a handful of people that I have met in my life that have been like this. I had a girl sign one time that I actually met in person, and she literally could not be alone ever. Even when she was working her business, she always had to have someone right by her side. And the crazy part is that when it came down to it, it pulled her back from her business so much because they were not in the same mindset as her. So she was not wanting to be alone because she didn't want to sit with herself and be uncomfortable thinking about all the things that she needed to change. And it pulled her business back because this business is 80% growth. In order to grow, you have to sit with yourself. You have to get to know who you truly are. And you can't do that in a room full of people who are extremely low mindsets, right? You have to challenge yourself to grow. And the only way to do that is to surround yourself with other people that are growing too. And to really do a lot of self-reflection. So that actually hindered her to the point where she ended up quitting because someone in her family told her to quit, right? Isn't that crazy how these kind of all tie in together? These are all out of control egos. Number 10, they only hang around people that agree with them. Okay. This is really crazy. We see this a lot, especially in politics right now. And it's so funny because, and I'm going to share a little story with you guys. Matt has been seeing a lot of the right-hand side of, politics and stuff like that all over his social media. And every single post that she gets up, Christina, you could probably say that Jay probably sees the same stuff, right? Everything you see, if you're on one side or the other, or you lean more to one side or the other, is going to be flooding your newsfeed. But the crazy part is that if you were to switch to the other side and start posting and sharing and looking up the other side would flood into your newsfeed. Isn't that crazy? So Facebook is literally like building off of out of control egos, right? If you really think about it, because they are going with like-minded people and pushing them all in one box in one category, and they are doing the same thing with the other side, and it's pulling two sides against each other, and it's really out of control ego, right? So if you want to grow and you want to get out of your own way, spend some time with the opposite side. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying or some of the stuff that they're saying inside you, your moral beliefs, spend some time. because you're going to outgrow your way of thinking and understand that not everybody's a bad person just because they have certain beliefs, right? Not everybody's a bad person. Not everybody's going nowhere. Not everybody's going somewhere. You know what I mean? So really think about those things. And that's not just in politics, but it's in your business in general. I think about it like this, okay? I have a lot of friends, or I used to have a lot of friends that did not work this business. When I started my business, I completely removed those friends out of my life. All of those friends were super negative. That's why I did that. However, the older that I get, the more I start thinking about having new friends. The more I just wish that I had a girlfriend that I could go get some coffee with. Or I wish that I had a friend that I could just go to her house and bring my kids and let them play and have some girl talk, right? The older that I get, I crave that companionship and that friendship, right? And so the thing is that my ego, when I first started my business, told me that you could not have any friends, Chelsea, unless they were working this business with you. And so for the longest time, I did not have any friends. And some of you have even seen this whole chapter of my life where I did not have any friends unless they were working this business with me. And that makes for a pretty lonely life because every single person that you talk to thinks exactly like you. It's a really boring life, actually. And so recently I started realizing that my ego was out of control. I started realizing that the reason why I didn't have friends wasn't because I wasn't a good person. I wasn't a person that would be able to have fun and talk and stuff like that. And I wasn't going to be a good friend. It was more so that I was telling myself that I could not have a friend unless they were in running a business, right? So I was never challenging my thinking, meaning I was never growing in that department. And I learned this through a book that I read. How crazy is that, right? So when it comes down to it, I started surrounding myself with people who think differently than me. People who work 9-to-5 jobs, but are open to growth and development. So they are a lot like me as far as outgrowing their old way of thinking, but they like to be an employee. They like the employee life. And the thing is that now that I'm starting to surround myself with different people who do different things and work different jobs and work different businesses and all the things, I'm starting to see life from a broader perspective. I'm starting to have my thinking challenged every single day, which is helping me grow. So we need people who are different in our life. We need people who are outside of our box. We need people who are working other businesses and, doing different things that are growing with us, because we need to see that perspective. And so if you are not allowing people into your life just because they are not agreeing with everything that you're saying, you're actually holding yourself back from seeing that perspective and growing. And maybe that hard conversation is exactly what you need to get to that next level. But you need to have it with someone who is not in your business, right? So it's really crazy how that happened too. Bailey? I don't know what my kids are doing. Matt's outside, but number 11 is offended by criticism. Okay. Raise your hand if you know someone who is in your life or who has been in your life that gets super offended very easily to criticism. I know several people, and I know a lot of people who are even in my family, right? That are super offended by criticism. Just know that when they're offended by criticism, it's not because they're right. It's not because they think they're better than you or they are better than you. It's actually because they're full of fear and doubt. Those people who are not open to criticism and are knocking down everything that you say, they are actually extremely uncomfortable with themselves. And same with us as well. When I first started changing my life in general, I remember Matt's parents coming over, and I like to share these stories because it's kind of showing you inside of my life and you can relate to it. Matt's parents would consistently tell me things that I could work on, and I would always shut them down. Guys, this was a huge sign. I can relate to every single one of these things. This was a huge sign that my ego was out of control, but I did not know that it was out of control, right? but I didn't know myself. I didn't love myself, and I wasn't being myself once again. And so I had no idea that my mind was doing this at all. But when you know more, you do more. And that's why I want to share these things with you guys. So it woke me up when I started learning about ego, and I started realizing, oh my gosh, this is holding me back. You know, just because someone is giving their advice or giving healthy criticism doesn't mean I need to take everything that they're saying. I can pick and choose what I want to take from it. I can pick and choose what I want to learn. But I have to understand that at least listening to it is going to help me in the long run. It's going to shake my brain up and help me learn and grow. Number 12 is obsessed with the past. Okay. Which is really, really crazy because this has been like a trend in my entire life up until like the last 2 years. The last 2 years, I started letting go of the past. And when it comes down to it, those people who are obsessed with the past are actually living in comparison. They're comparing themselves to who they used to be, whether this be their old lifestyle, their old weight that they were at, what they used to look like when they were younger, right? All these things. And these people who are living in the past, they're living in comparison. And what do we know about comparison? Comparison is the thief of all joy. So these people who are living, you know, looking at the past and comparing themselves to the past all the time and bringing up old stories and old things that used to happen, these people have an out of control ego. And this may be you, you know, this was me for sure. And these people are not living in the present, which means that they can't focus on their future because they're always looking at their past. They are holding themselves stuck right where they are. Do you ever look at people sometimes and you're like, oh my gosh, I wish that they would just get out of their own way? In reality, they're doing that. They're looking at their old self. Yes, I love that you can relate to this, Christina. Seriously. It's so true. And all these things, like I said, I was thinking of all this and I was like looking through all my old notes about ego and stuff like that and books that I've read about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, I can relate to every single one of these. And these all come up at some point or another in our lives. So I'm glad that you can relate to it too. This is another really, really good one. Okay. And I've had a conversation with a lot of people about this specifically in 2 different ways. Okay. So number 13, this is the first way out of these 2 different ways. Number 13, chronically apologizes. And what that is, okay, and like Christina, you're gonna get it. The next on number 14, you're gonna be like, okay, I get it. Okay. So what I mean by this, when I say chronically apologizes, is that they are looking for an easy way out instead of fixing their behavior. So have you ever met someone who consistently apologizes, but does the same damn thing the next day? And then consistently apologizes again and apologizes again. You get this in a lot of, you know, marriages that are in, you know, infidelity, or friends that are consistently just being an a-hole, you know, or like Matt and I, when we first started dating, he was very sarcastic, but he was mean, like mean. And it was consistent. Well, I'm sorry for doing that. But then the next day he would treat me like crap again. And I would be like, okay, you know, that was a consistent thing. That's an out of control ego. And I've done the same things too. So I can't really say it's just him. It was me. A lot was me too. So instead of fixing their behavior, they take the easy way out and they apologize. And this is when you actually hurt someone. This is when you actually do something to someone again and again and again and again and again, and apologize. That's an out of control ego. Now, on the other hand, and I put verses here, when you don't do something wrong, but you apologize consistently, okay? And I know some of you guys are going to get this because this is actually a sign of an out of control ego. When you are consistently saying sorry, but you're not actually hurting anybody at the end of the day. And it all revolves around worrying about what people think of you, right? Like a lot of us come from that background. It's a people-pleasing background. Where does that come from? It comes from all the fears and the doubts in our head of what people think of us, of what people say about us. Where does that fear and doubt come from? Let's dive even deeper. What did the first 5 years of your life look like? Right? What did your upbringing look like? What were some of the things that people did around you or said to you, right? When you think about those things, you start learning why you have that people pleasing mentality. That's when you start to learn why you apologize consistently. And that's when you can understand that you have an out of control ego. Now it's time for you to start being yourself and fixing it. Start owning who you are instead of apologizing for who you are every single day. Start learning who you are instead of telling people that you're not good enough by apologizing consistently or lowering yourself. Because when you're saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you're really trying to put yourself below that person, right? And you're not. You're not. That's not where you're supposed to be. You stand tall, you get to know who you are, figure out who you are, and the rest will follow. So when it comes down to it, when you remove your ego, you can start to love yourself, because like I said, the only way that you can love yourself is get to know who you are. In order to get to know who you are, you have to be who you want to be. So you have to figure out who you are. If you lead with ego, there will always be setbacks. I can promise you that. There's always going to be a setback if you lead with this ego. And these are things that we're fighting every single day. So the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you learn about the people around you, the more that you learn about your mindset and where you're at mentally, physically, emotionally, the more you learn about those things, the more you can start learning who you really are. And when you start knowing who you really are, you can be yourself. And when you are yourself and you you start learning who you are and you get your own approval for your own self and you've got God's approval, why do you need anybody else's? Right? Those are the only two that matter. So when it comes down to it, how you outgrow your ego is by working on yourself daily and being super self-aware of who you are and where you're going, learning who you are day by day by knowing the feelings that you get when you're doing certain things or when you're thinking of certain things or thinking of certain people or being around certain types of people, right? Start learning what you like and what you don't like and who you are and who you're not. And the more you look into your beliefs and you look into who you were raised by and the things that you were taught growing up, the more you're going to start to learn who you are at the core, and you can learn how to love yourself at that point. When you stop working on you, and this is something that I actually got as like, facts and stuff. When you stop working on you, poor results show up 90 to 120 days later. Do you guys know that? So think about your business like this, okay? Tomorrow, you say, okay, I've done enough growing. I've gotten to this point where I don't need personal development anymore. And I've gotten to this point where I've done enough work, right? In the next 90 days, you will start seeing all of the negative results from those actions right there. So if you want to go the opposite way and you want positive results, it takes 6 months to build positive results. So working on you every single day, working on your business every single day, day in and day out, being so ridiculously aware of this ego and where it's coming into your business and telling you that you can't, or telling you that you're not good enough, or, all these 14 different ways. These things are going to rise up. And the more self-aware you are of them, the more you're going to realize that you're having at least one of these come up every single day. And so you're going to have to start learning how you are going to push these things aside and start becoming yourself and owning yourself. Think about this, okay? When it comes down to it, I've thought about this too all the time. If you've ever failed, or you've ever lost a rank, or you've ever failed in a relationship before, like just show of hands really quick, how many of you guys have gone through those things? I've gone through every single one of those, okay? And sometimes I think about it and I'm like, well, what really happened? And my ego usually comes out of control at that point. I start blaming externally. I start thinking of things that could have gone wrong. I start blaming my upline. I start blaming my sideline. I start blaming my downline for all the bad things that are happening. When in reality, if I looked at it, I would say, well, Chelsea, 90 to 120 days ago, you stopped growing. You stopped doing the things that were going to get you there. And that is why it's not happening for you, right? This is why we talk all the time in our business about the start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. Think about a plane taking off. Just an analogy for you guys. If a plane gives it some gas and gets going on the runway and then clicks the brakes, what happens? It doesn't go up in the air. It can't. They have to back up and then try again. But what happens if they're going down the runway and they go, just start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. They're never going to get in the air. So this is where a lot of us let our ego get the best of us. We do the start, stop because ego is flaring up every single day and we're not even aware of it. We don't even know these things are going on. We don't even know that these things are really holding us back. But when you know more, you do more. And that's why I wanted to educate you guys on these things tonight. And I want to pour into you so that you know, okay, this is why my business is not taking off, because I've got a freaking out of control ego that I need to take care of. And the only way to take care of it is to know which one of these 14 is coming up in my life every single day, and which one I need to work on. And then going and figuring out who can pour into me, going and finding that YouTube video that really gets me away from that. Going and reading a book that gets me away from that, going and listening to this podcast that gets me away from that, going and reaching out to my upline and saying, girl, just shoot me straight to get away from that, right? Surrounding yourself with those people who help you get rid of your ego. That's going to be your main key in your success. That is why you are going to move forward. That's why you are going to succeed, is because you're willing to do those things. And you can't wait around because there's a setback in your life. You can't wait around because there's a setback in your business. You can't wait around because you've had a quick spurt of success. You have to get up and you have to go. You have to figure out where that's coming in and where that ego is leaking in. And you have to figure out how you're going to eliminate it, how you're going to push it out. When it comes down to it, every single one of us has a breakthrough coming. And the only way that you're going to have that breakthrough is if you start doing some real deep self-reflection, you start understanding what is holding you back. So take a look at these 14 things that I'm showing you. See where it's really affecting your business. See where it's really affecting your life. And then learn that you need to grow in that area. The only way to grow in it is to surround yourself with those people who are going to push you out of it. Outgrowing yourself by reading every single day, by listening to podcasts every single day, by learning these things. And there's going to be ego that's going to come up all along the way. Okay. Like I just said, just a couple weeks ago, I had a spot where there was someone who got started on my team and I just wanted them to go faster. And I just was like, why aren't you getting it? Why aren't you getting it? Right. I was not giving them grace the way that I should have been giving them grace. So just understand that all of these things flare up, and ego only raises its hand when you're in fear and you're doubtful. The only reason why you're fearful and you're doubtful is because you don't know where you're going, or the momentum's not there. So when you understand those things and you can self-reflect and you can see these different egos that are flaring up, it's going to change everything for you. So I hope and I pray that you guys got something from this Zoom call. If you have any questions, please reach out to me personally. Message me, say, this is where I'm messing up, or this is where things are happening in my life, and this is what's going on. How can I change this? Or what can I read? Or what can I listen to that's going to help me fix this? Or what can I do every single day to get me out of this way of thinking? Okay. The more you reach out, the more you get out of the ego. So I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for hopping on, and I hope you have a great day.